All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our workshop today. Today, we're going to be talking about how to be the remodeler that homeowners want to hire online in 2026. How can you be that remodeler, that designer, that builder that stands out amongst all the competition out there? There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of competition, a lot of competitors that you got to compete against. What is your unique selling proposition? How do you stand out online? How are you going to be the one that gets hired here in 2026? So that's what we're going to jump into today. Let's go ahead and get right to it. Uh, Most of you guys know me already. You know that I come from the trades. I used to be in remodeling, fix and flips, custom home development, $1 million range. So I've been around this stuff. I know the language, know the messaging. Also, tend to be kind of a computer geek. Learned how to start coding back in the late '80s. And so this is just kind of where my passion lies. Work with a lot of the best associations in the country right now when it comes to the remodeling and home building industry. So, this is what I'm passionate about, and really my passion is helping you guys grow, helping you guys move your businesses forward, and become that remodeler that people really do want to hire over anyone else out there. And I say this with conviction because this is what we do. We are not pretending to be the digital marketing agency that serves the entire country and every industry out there. We only work with remodelers, designers, builders, just people in the home improvement space. We do this day in and day out. So we've really got our messaging dialed in. We know what we're doing. We know what it takes. We know what channels work. And we know how different channels work at different times. This is what we do, and our goal is ultimately to help you grow your company, to grow your revenue. We're very numbers and metric driven, so that's really important to us, is making sure that when you're investing in marketing, that you're actually getting a really, really good return on investment. And so before we jump into today's workshop, I also want to remind you that for all of you guys on here today, for those of you that stay to the end of the webinar, you're going to get a couple freebies, some guides on and really how to become that remodeler that gets hired. And one of those freebies is a 90-day action plan that you can align with your current system, make sure that you have the proper system in place. So I encourage you to stay to the end and get those freebies. We'll mail those out to you right after the webinar. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. What the real problem is, most remodeling companies, they're not struggling to get traffic. You see those website visits and clicks and all that. But what most remodelers, builders that I talk to are struggling with is how to turn that attention that you're getting into actual real booked projects that are going to put you on a job site, let you work with homeowners, let you bring in a paycheck. And so when you look at this illustration here, what we're really trying to describe here is the fact that today's homeowners, they don't really follow a straight path. They research across Google, they compare your reviews, your frequency of reviews, your review rating. They scan those AI generated summaries that you see at the top of Google search results. They also will go to those AI platforms and see if they find you on there, see if you're one of the recommended companies in your area. And they'll also evaluate your credibility long before they ever reach out to you. So, if your SEO, your paid media, your reputation isn't aligned, you may be driving demand that ultimately converts somewhere else. It converts for another remodeler, a competitor of yours. And so in this session, we're going to walk through how modern search behavior is really shaping the remodeling buyer journey, that customer journey that we talk about so much, and then what it takes to really turn visibility into signed and booked jobs. You'll learn how trust signals influence conversion, where most marketing strategies fall short, and how to create a system that consistently attracts and closes high quality projects. If your goal is predictable, scalable growth, not just more clicks, this session will give you a clearer path forward. I promise you that. And so let's first talk about the shift in homeowner behavior. The way homeowners choose a remodeling company has really fundamentally changed, even if many marketing strategies have not changed in and of themselves. Today's buyers are more informed, they're more cautious, they're more independent in their research process. Before ever reaching out, they are forming strong opinions about who they trust based on what they find online. And so this section really defines the modern homeowner journey as a non-linear process. And what I mean by that is, instead of moving from search to contact to outreach to you, in other words, in just a straight line, homeowners move between search results, between looking at Google business profiles, looking at different review platforms, and then looking at those AI generated summaries that are really starting to feature prominently. They're comparing multiple remodelers at once, and they're often making those decisions before you even before they even know that you exist. And so, before we go any further, it's important to reframe how homeowners are actually making decisions today, because this is where most marketing strategies fall behind. We tend to think of Google as a tool that people use to find a remodeler, but in reality, it has evolved into something that's much more powerful. Today, Google functions as a decision engine, not just a search engine. Homeowners are no longer simply clicking through websites to evaluate their options. They're forming opinions directly with the search results themselves. They've already started forming opinions just what they see in search before they even get to a website, before they even get to your Google business profile, and so on. When someone searches for a remodeler in their area, they immediately see your reviews now. They see your rating, your 5-star rating, hopefully. They see your photos, they see where you're located, and then how you compare to others, in that Google Map pack, that 3-pack that we call Google Maps marketing. In many cases, they're making initial judgments and even narrowing their choices without even visiting your website. You've probably seen that if you're really paying attention to your Google Search Console, where you're getting a lot of calls straight from your Google business profile, especially if you're using a tracking number. You're like, wow, they didn't even go to my website. They just saw you in that 3-pack, saw that you got a ton of reviews, 5-star rating. That's enough for them. They've already formed an opinion. And so this is leading to really a critical shift in how those first impressions are formed. We always say first impressions last a lifetime, right? And you only get one chance to make a first impression. So your website is no longer the first touch point in many cases. Instead, it is that Google business profile that you have. It's those reviews on there, and it's your overall search presence that really determines whether you even make it into consideration in that top 3 companies or so that a homeowner is likely to call. At the same time, the homeowner journey is no longer linear either. I talked about it's not really straight line linear. It's not search to the website, to the contact page, and then boom, you've got a call. It really turns out to be that it's much more fragmented and layered. And so a homeowner might, look at your Google business profile. They might click over to your website, maybe briefly. Maybe they spend a lot of time there reading all the different pages, looking at your different portfolios, your case studies, things like that. Maybe they go over and look at your social media presence as well. Maybe they come back and then look at your reviews again, just kind of for a little more validity, just to kind of reinforce that you really are the company that they should be calling. They're probably comparing you to 2 or 3 other competitors because they're always told by the BBB and other guides, to pick 3 companies to interview. Some do, some don't. And then they might come back later and look at some of those things again before they finally make a decision to actually go with you. Even after they've talked to you, they might still go back and say, "Honey, let's read those reviews again. Let's go look at their portfolio again." Some of those things that bring them back to you a second time around. And so this is what we mean by a nonlinear, multi-touch customer journey. Trust is built over multiple interactions across multiple platforms, not just a single visit. And so this leads to one of the most important takeaways of today's session here, and that is visibility alone does not equal selection. It is, of course, necessary that you have that online visibility, but it really is an insufficient first step to earning the customer's trust. It takes a little more than that. Just because somebody finds you does not mean they will choose you. Being visible is only step one. Being chosen requires that everything they see, from your reviews to your photos to your messaging, all of that has to work together to build confidence. And so let's ask ourselves why traffic alone isn't enough. Traffic has traditionally been treated as a primary success metric in marketing. You know, how many clicks did you get? How many website visits did you get? But in reality, in today's environment, it's really only the starting point. Many remodeling companies, home builders, they're generating visibility, but they're not really seeing proportional growth when it comes to the number of leads or the number of signed projects. This introduces what we call the conversion gap, that space where attention is lost due to weak positioning or lack of trust. Even strong SEO or paid campaigns can underperform if what follows the click doesn't reinforce the credibility that they're looking for. If your website, your reviews, your messaging don't match the expectations created by your marketing, then homeowners will inevitably continue their search elsewhere. They're going to click through to other websites, look at your competitors. And so let's talk about some of those common funnel leaks where you might be leaking some of those opportunities. The first is a weak or outdated website experience. So we're talking about a site that just looks old, looks like it, was built a long time ago. It's just not up to today's standard. Maybe it's loading really slowly, which is really a killer for the user experience, what we call user UX. Or maybe it just lacks clarity, which reduces confidence immediately, and that's going to increase the bounce rate. And bounce rate is someone coming to your website from search and then bouncing right back into the search results and looking for another website that they think is going to better serve their needs. Also, it could be a lack of clear differentiation. If your messaging sounds like every other remodeler, homeowners have no reason to choose you over competitors. You don't have a USP, a unique selling proposition. What makes you really stand out? What differentiates you? And I don't think enough remodelers really think about that and put some thought and change into their website. Another potential source of leaks is inconsistent branding across different marketing platforms, different channels. So you've got mismatched messaging. Maybe your visuals just don't align. Maybe the tone of voice that you're using is just not similar between ads, between your website, between the profiles that you create. And that just is going to result in creating confusion and really just weaken trust. We always say a confused mind never buys, and there's no more truism than that in marketing. If they're kind of confused, they're just kind of wondering what's going on, they're going to move on. It also could be the insufficient proof of quality. If you don't have those strong reviews, if you don't have lots of project photos showcasing different styles of work that you're doing, and even case studies, a case study being a particular project that you really walk people through. When they come and look at that case study, they kind of know where it started and how you really bring that dream home to fruition for those homeowners. And you talk about how you worked with Dave and Sally. They really want to be able to put themselves into that picture. And so you don't want to leave homeowners not able to validate your expertise because you're not featuring all of that on your website, in your social posts and Google posts and things like that. And then another source for leaking could be slow response time or really unclear next steps. So what I mean by that is delayed follow-up with sales, delayed follow-up after you've even presented the proposal. It could be a lack of a clear call to action for leads, and that's going to lead to those lost opportunities even after interest is established. If you don't have good follow-up in place, that's going to lead to leads leaking from your funnel. One thing that we always say is that trust signals are really what actually drive decisions. So when remodeling, trust is everything. Homeowners are making high cost, high risk decisions. These are big projects. They cost a lot of money. And so they're relying heavily on the signals that you're putting out there that will help reduce their uncertainty. This section defines trust signals as the observable proof that points, those proof points that really influence whether someone feels confident in reaching out to you. Trust is really built through consistency. It's built through volume of proof and clarity of positioning. So not just a few positive reviews. That certainly is a good starting point, but that's only the starting point. A strong digital presence reinforces the idea that your company is established, reliable, and capable of delivering the level of work that homeowners are going to expect from you. And so let's talk about some of those core trust signals. The first would be review volume and quality, both. So we're talking about a high number of recent, detailed reviews. That's going to signal reliability. You've got good frequency there, not a bunch of reviews that all came 6 months ago. And then it's also going to talk about the customer satisfaction. You're constantly satisfying your customers. Again, it didn't all happen 2 years ago. You've got those reviews coming in one after another every month consistently. And then next, you're going to have consistency across platforms. So your branding's going to match, your messaging's going to be congruent and consistent, and then that professionalism across your website, across your Google profile, and your ads, that's all going to lend to building credibility. And then project visuals in those case studies I was talking about. So we're talking about high quality before and after photos, and then detailed project descriptions can really help you demonstrate real capability. So I'm not talking about just putting pictures up there. We want to walk them through what you did, why you took out a wall, or why you moved a wall, why you moved the island around in the kitchen, things like that really speak to what you're doing, and you have a reason behind your design process and what's going to work best for that homeowner that you're working with. Another real core trust signal is clear positioning with your messaging. You want to clearly state who you serve and what you specialize in helping homeowners. That's going to really help them quickly determine if that's a fit, if you are a good fit for them or not. And then last, we're talking about professional and an updated online presence. So, all your profiles are active and up to date. You're putting out fresh content out there that addresses some of the issues and problems that homeowners or have questions about. And then your modern design, your website is going to signal that your business is active and trustworthy. We've had customers tell us that they have literally gotten a job from a homeowner that says, "I picked you because your website was so up to date, was fresh with content, and it just really was visually appealing." And so that's pretty amazing to hear that because a lot of time we think it's just those photos of projects that are going to stand out, but every remodeler has a website. They have photos. They all say they're the best and offer the best customer service. But if you have something that's really modern and really speaks to them, can help that homeowner see themselves inside of one of those case studies, see themselves inside of those finished pictures from your projects, that's going to help you win that bid. And so one of the things we want to think about is what homeowners are subconsciously asking, and how you answer those questions before they even reach out. So let's dive into that with this graphic here. Homeowners, may not say these questions out loud, but they're constantly evaluating you through this lens. Your marketing either answers these questions clearly or it leaves enough doubt for them to move on. And so the first thing they want to know is, can they trust you? Do you have enough five-star reviews? Do you have great portfolio galleries on your website featuring different types of projects that are easy to find? Also includes those case studies that talk about some of your best projects in greater detail on how it all came together. What is your process like? What will it be like to work with you? That's really important for them. A lot of people, a lot of remodelers, I look at their websites, they don't even really talk about what that process is going to be like, what that timeline looks like. And then one of the most important concepts in lead generation, and subsequently making those sales is, do you have your speed to lead dialed in? Are you answering your phone 100% of the time? Or maybe you've got an answering service in place, or at minimum, at least you're following up within 5 minutes. That's really how quick you got to follow up. Because guess what happens when you don't answer your phone or you don't follow up? They're going back into the search results and they're just calling the next company. That first company that gets the call is got a really, really good chance of winning that job. They're certainly going to get the consult set up. And so you want to make sure your speed to lead is really dialed in. This includes calls to your office, to your cell phone, wherever those calls are being routed. And it also includes your form fills as well, making sure that you have an automation in place that follows up with a form fill as soon as it comes in, because we know you're busy. You're not living in your email inbox. So you better have an automation that handles that form coming in. And one of the questions homeowners are going to ask, this is pretty universal. They're going to be looking at you and thinking, is this company credible and are they established? Homeowners want to avoid risk. That's really the biggest mistake they can make. They're looking for signs that you're experienced, that you're active, and that you're trusted by others. And so, how do you answer this? Strong review volume and recency in those reviews. Like I said, recent reviews, not every review being a year old. That's going to show ongoing work and satisfied clients. And then we're talking about consistent branding across platforms. This is going to signal professionalism and stability. And then also having an updated, modern looking website, an updated and optimized Google profile. This is going to reinforce that you're active and current in your business. If these are missing or if they're inconsistent, the assumption is uncertainty, not neutrality. And so they're what they're asking is things like, do they do projects like mine? Homeowners are trying to determine fit quickly. If they don't see themselves in your work, they will assume that you're probably not the right choice. And even if you might be, it's just because you haven't presented yourself in the right light. So, how you can answer this potential problem is, having those detailed project galleries and case studies. These are going to show relevance and expertise. Um, and then also clear service and project type messaging. This is going to help eliminate confusion. They're going to know exactly what types of services that you offer and the type of projects that you work on. And then, of course, those before and after visuals. That's going to help them visualize their own project. They're going to see some styles, some colors, finishes, and things that they might be able to say, "Oh, honey, that's exactly what we want to see." So, all of this, builds relevance, and relevance builds confidence faster than any of those generalized kind of type of quality claims that you put out there. Another thing they're going to be asking is can I trust them with such a large investment? This is really one of the most important questions. Remodeling is emotional, but obviously it's also very financial. Homeowners are looking for a reassurance that you would deliver on what you promised them. And so, how do you answer this question around trust? I meant, reviews. We talked about that. They're going to mention that your communication, hopefully, maybe your timelines, your outcomes. It's really going to reinforce reliability. And then consistent messaging across all your different marketing channels. That's going to reduce some perceived risk. I see a lot of remodelers out there. They got pretty decent websites, if not really good websites. Maybe they've got some other things set up, but then you go to Facebook and they post once a year. That doesn't exactly inspire a lot of confidence. You don't have to post every day or invest in a social media marketing campaign, although it is really helpful. It really gives you a lot of brand exposure, builds that brand up, a lot of brand visibility. But on the other hand, it's the scarier part that really is the risk here, and that's not having a social media presence. Posting once a year doesn't inspire a lot of confidence for me, and I know for most homeowners. And so you really want to have a professional, polished online presence that's going to signal attention to detail. And homeowners obviously want attention to detail when it comes to you taking on their remodeling project. And so trust it's not just about being good, it's about proving it clearly and repeatedly. And another question that homeowners are going to have is going to be, what would it be like to work with your company? This is often overlooked, but it really is a critical component of trying to win that customer over. And so, beyond the final result, homeowners are evaluating your experience, the experience that they're having with you on the website and your other different platforms. They're looking at communication, they're looking at your professionalism, and they're looking at kind of the ease of what it will be like, working with you. And so, how do we answer this? So, one of the things that we've repeatedly mentioned, and for a reason, is that reviews that you have are going to highlight the process and the experience, not just the result. Those reviews are going to talk about what it meant to work with you, what it was like, and how easy this the whole process was, and how communicative you were, and you always followed back up with them. Things like that. Those are the things that people naturally write in reviews, and you can also coach that a little bit too. And then your website content, that's going to explain your approach, your process. It's going to let them know, what it's like to work with you. And then ultimately, that's going to set some very clear expectations and what the next steps are. And so that's going to reduce a lot of that uncertainty that they might have. People are not just hiring the best builder or the best remodeler. They're hiring the one that they feel the most comfortable with. It's a pretty big distinction. You could be both too. And then I know a lot of you on this call are definitely standouts in both those categories. And so let's talk about aligning your SEO with your paid ads, your paid media, and then also your reputation. One of the biggest missed opportunities in remodeling marketing is lack of alignment. And so what I mean by this is your SEO, your paid ads, your reputation management. Sometimes they get treated as separate efforts, and when in reality, they should function as a unified system, all working in synergy together. Your SEO creates visibility, paid media captures high intent demand, and then reputation validates the decision. So when these are all aligned, they really reinforce each other at every stage of that homeowner journey. And when they're not aligned, you create friction, and this is where you lose opportunities. So again, it's that uncertainty that comes into play here that will decide whether you book more consults or whether you're losing some of those opportunities. And so, how do all these channels work together? And so, SEO, search engine optimization, optimizing for the search engine so that you show up on page one. This is going to, SEO creates consistent discovery online, that page one visibility, by positioning your business in the organic search results or in the Google Maps. When homeowners begin researching their project, you're going to be one of the first names that pops up there. That's the ultimate goal, right? And then paid ads, paid media. We're talking about Google ads. We're talking about Facebook ads, Yelp ads, any type of paid media that where you're buying those ads and trying to get people to click through. This is going to capture active demand by placing your business in front of homeowners who are really ready to take that next step and are searching with intent. And then another channel is your reputation, your reviews and your online presence. They're going to validate your credibility by giving homeowners the proof they need to trust you over options that they might be looking at otherwise, other options they're considering. So you really need that reputation to stand out. Number of reviews, the recency, the frequency, in other words, of the reviews, and then what the reviews say as well. We don't want just, hey, great job. You want to coach them to say, hey, kind of give me more feedback so I can work with that and make our team better. And then your website experience is a marketing channel that really means a lot, right? It's the hub of everything you do. So it converts interest into action by reinforcing trust, clearly communicating your value, and guiding homeowners to reach out to you. So, your website's really the hub of everything. It's where everyone starts at typically. And so let's talk about where you might be seeing some signs of misalignment. So maybe you have strong ads but weak or very few reviews. And so that's going to signal interest without really the trust being there. You're successfully capturing attention. They're clicking through your ads. But when homeowners go to validate your business, now there's not enough proof to really support that decision. So again, that's uncertainty coming in, that uncertainty word popping up here again. This creates hesitation, and hesitation leads to drop off. Remember, I said a confused mind never buys. That's what we mean. They're going to drop off. They're going to either abandon their search or they're going to go talk to other competitors. And so one way you can solve this is, build that consistent review acquisition system. Have a system so that you're asking every satisfied client for a review as part of your closeout process, and not just occasionally or when you think about it. And then prioritize your Google reviews first. This is where homeowners validate you immediately after seeing your ads. They're not going to go on some other platform and try to seek out, some reviews on some obscure platform. They're going to go to Google. That's where they're going to go. And then, increasing your reviews in both in quantity and quality. And aim for those detailed reviews that mention the experience they've had with you, the communication, as well as the results. And like I said earlier, not just saying, "Oh, great job," people kind of sometimes think, "Is that really a real review?" Like a real review would actually say something that spoke to the experience they had with you. And then, of course, respond to every review, positive or negative. This is going to show engagement from your company. It's also going to reinforce your professionalism that you're willing to take the time to respond to the reviews you're getting. It's a very professional move, and not a lot of people do that. And so the goal is really when someone clicks your ad and checks out your reviews, there really should be zero hesitation for them. And then another problem you might have is you got high rankings, everything looks good, but you've got a poor website. And so now you've got that visibility without conversion. And so, in other words, you're getting found organically. People are scrolling. There you are on page one. But when homeowners then click through and land on your site, it doesn't really reinforce the confidence or really guide them to take action. Maybe you don't have any call to action buttons and things like that, or maybe your portfolio is just a jumbled mess or things like that really it doesn't reinforce that you're really the cream of the crop. This is really one of the biggest missed opportunities when it comes to remodeler marketing. We see it time and time again with people coming to us. And so the way you can solve that at first is just upgrade that first impression opportunity and do it immediately. Modern design, faster load speeds, and then just clear messaging above the fold that's the first thing that they're seeing when they get to your website. You also can do a better job at clarifying what you do and who you serve and what areas you serve. So no guesswork here for the homeowners. Just state your services, the locations you work in, and some of your specializations. Make sure it's very clear that you do indeed do basement remodeling. They don't have to ask about it. You do indeed do home additions, things like that. And you can also add some really strong proof elements, like I said, those project galleries, the case studies, your testimonials, even the trust badges from like Angie's or Howell's, Yelp, things like that. They can really reinforce that you've earned those badges for a reason. And it's the quality of how you work with homeowners. And then one other thing you can do is to make the next steps obvious and easy, and what I mean by that is clear calls to action, like schedule a consultation, request an estimate, contact us here, view our portfolio here, give them a roadmap of what to do next and walk them through that roadmap. That's the customer journey that you have to help them walk. They're not going to figure that out on their own sometimes. So, the goal is that your website should answer why you within the first 5 seconds. Why should they pick you over some other website that they just visited? And another sign of misalignment could be inconsistent messaging. This is going to create confusion and some drop off. So if your ads say one thing and your website says another, like maybe you have a landing page for PPC ads and it doesn't feature all the different services. So that's going to create that misalignment. Maybe your reviews tell a different story, and now homeowners don't really know what to believe. So inconsistency creates doubt, creates that uncertainty we talked about, and doubt kills conversion. And so one way to solve this is just to define a clear positioning statement. What do you specialize in? Who do you serve? Why are you different? What areas do you serve? Simple. Answers it all right there. And so you want to align your messaging across all platforms as well. Your paid ads, your website, your Google profiles, social media, even your reviews should all reinforce that same narrative. And then also standardize your visuals and the tone of voice that you're using. You want consistent branding, consistent imagery, and language that builds familiarity and trust. And one thing that I find that remodelers, builders, home improvement specialists don't do often enough is just to audit your online presence regularly. Look at your business the way a homeowner would. And does it all feel cohesive? To have some things kind of gotten off track over the years? Things like that. So, the goal here is that every touch point should tell the same story, reinforcing that confidence. And then another place you could be misaligned is having that traffic without the leads. So there's a breakdown in your system somewhere. So if you're getting traffic but not leads, it's not a traffic problem. It's not a I need more leads problem. It's a systems problem. Somewhere between discovery and decision, you're losing momentum with those homeowners that are trying to decide on you versus your competitors. So one of the ways to solve that is to just kind of audit the full journey, not just one piece of it. Look at your search, click through the different options that you can. Look at the website when people land on your website. Don't just go there on your own that you've bookmarked. Go there from search and see where it lands you. And then your follow up, it also comes into play there. It's all one system. If they go to search, they click through to your website, they somehow end up on a contact page. What is that follow up? How does that all work? It's all still one system. And then you need to identify your drop off points, where are people leaving, those bounce rates you should be looking at in your Google Search Console, forms that are getting abandoned, really, really low dwell time on certain pages. You've got a beautiful page you've just built, but people are staying there 10 seconds. Something's wrong with that page. It's not answering a question that they want answered. It's not addressing a need that they're trying to figure out in their evaluation of you. And then you also want to strengthen your conversion pathways, simplify your forms. The more form fields you add to a form, what's their neighborhood, what's their budget, yada, yada. Everything you ask is going to lower your conversion because people don't want to really, spend that much time on a form. They also don't want to give up some of that information. And then you also want to improve your CTAs, your calls to action, really optimize that mobile experience as well. Make sure that your website's showing up on mobile and looks really good. They don't go to mobile and all of a sudden things are breaking and all that. It's a terrible user experience. And I talked about improving your speed to lead, responding quickly in minutes, not hours. This alone can dramatically increase your conversions. And so this is something we help clients with a lot. We're monitoring those calls and we're able to go to them in our monthly meetings and say, look, your average response time was 2 hours and 37 minutes. Like that is not going to cut it. So that's something to be looking at. And then tracking the right metrics, focusing on leads and focusing on those signed projects. How'd you get that signed project? What did you do maybe to get there so that you can learn from that and not just focusing on traffic or impressions. You need to look at that. You need to look at how many impressions you're getting in an ad campaign, how many clicks through to your website or landing page. Those are important. You want to know about traffic, but you really want to focus on leads and growing your company, what's working and what's bringing you return on investment. So the goal here really is to create a seamless path from first search to signing that project, everything in between there. And so, how do you build a predictable lead system? Consistent growth doesn't come from isolated tactics. It comes from a system that works together over time. This section defines what a predictable lead system looks like for remodeling companies. It includes steady visibility, reinforced trust, and a clear path to conversion. Instead of chasing spikes in traffic, chasing leads, the goal is to build a foundation that produces reliable, high quality opportunities. So this requires measuring success differently, focusing on lead quality, focusing on your close rates, and the project value rather than just volume of website visits and some of those vanity metrics that they matter, but it's not really what's going to help grow your company ultimately. And so let's talk about what a strong lead generation system really includes. Obviously, online SEO visibility, having a consistent presence in the search results for high intent keywords related to the services and location that you serve. Targeted paid campaigns, ads that are focused on capturing demand from homeowners that are ready to start a project, not necessarily just a looky-loos. Um, you want homeowners that are ready to go, and then also a strong and growing review presence. And we talked about that steady flow of new reviews that reinforce credibility of your company over time. And that's also going to build authority as well as that credibility. And then, conversion focused websites, a site that's designed to guide visitors toward action with clarity, proof, and strong messaging. And then also a fast and consistent follow-up process. This is really one of the areas that I see home improvement specialists, remodelers, builders, roofers. This is where they fail the most. They don't have an immediate response to inquiries that helps maintain that momentum, and ultimately it's going to help you close more. You might think you do, but once you start digging in, you might find that, oh wow, like we're really not, as good as we thought we were in follow up and our close rate. I thought we closed 1 out of 4, but it's actually 16%. Well, that's a big difference in revenue. That's huge. And so let's talk about an action plan here, how to build this system. You want to strengthen your foundation, kind of weeks 1 to 4. Audit your website for clarity, for speed, and trust signals that you need. You want to update your messaging to clearly define your services and what differentiates you from your competitors. And then add or improve upon the project galleries and case studies that you already have. And then we talked about building a systemized review process. You're going to start this from the beginning, but this is always going to be an ongoing initiative for you. So it's not, weeks 1 to 4. This is ongoing. This is forevermore. You need to keep reviews coming in. And so you want to implement a process, a system where you can request reviews after every project. You have a dialogue for that. You really want to focus on Google reviews as a primary platform because those are the ones that really stand out. You're trying to rank on Google. You're not trying to rank on Facebook, but if you get Facebook reviews, that's fine. But that review on Google is going to be way more valuable than that review on Facebook. And then you want to respond to all reviews to show engagement, to show that you are a professional company that really respects your clients and are willing to thank them in a high profile public forum like a Google business profile.
The internet right now. Check your modem or router connection.
And
and
then
try again.
you want to ensure that your visibility across different channels aligns. And this is kind of in the 30 to 60 day range. Ensure that SEO targets the right high intent keywords. Launch or refine your paid campaigns for immediate demand capture. And then you also want to make sure that you're matching your messaging across your ads, your website, your different profiles. Everything's kind of matching up there. And then one of the ongoing initiatives is just optimizing those conversion pathways. And so what I mean by that is, simplify your contact forms, have those call to action buttons wherever you can. Every website page should have a call to action. You want to ensure that your mobile experience is seamless, no drop off in the quality of how your website looks, but also that your website loads really quickly, what we call mobile speed experience. You can check that in Google's mobile page speed tool. And you also want to have clear next steps, like scheduling that consultation, requesting an estimate, things like that, so people know what's coming next. And then after maybe do a design consult, make sure they know what comes after that as well. Have some follow-up in place for that. And then again, one of the immediate high impact things that you can be doing is improving that speed to lead. Respond to all your inquiries within minutes, not hours, not days. And then use call tracking so that you know where those leads are coming from, and get those notifications that let you know, hey, you just missed a call, you just missed a text, whatever it may be. And then also assign ownership for lead follow-up. Is that going to be you that's going to follow up? Is it someone else on your team? Make sure everyone knows their role. Who does what? Who makes the call? Who sends the text? Who sends the email? Who has what role is going to really make sure you don't have any leaks there as well. And then, here are some metrics that really matter. I just kind of wanted to share these with you guys as we wind down. These metrics really move beyond surface level activity and tie your marketing directly to business outcomes. Instead of measuring how many people see your brand, they measure how effectively you turn visibility into real revenue. And so that first metric is we're talking about qualified leads. Now, this ensures that you're attracting the right type of homeowners, not just more inquiries, but ones that fit your project type, your budget, your goals. It filters out the noise and helps you focus your efforts on opportunities that can actually convert. And then your conversion rate, from lead to actual booked project, that is your conversion rate. So this is going to reveal how effectively your process turns interested homeowners into signed jobs. A strong conversion rate indicates alignment between your marketing, your messaging, and then the sales experience that you're delivering. And also, look at your average project value. This reflects the quality of your leads. Higher project values typically indicate better targeting, more clear positioning, and a stronger perceived value. You're known more as that luxury remodeler and not the bargain basement chuck in a truck that is going to do a bathroom for $5,000. And then lastly, costs per acquired project. This is your true ROI metric. It tells you how much you're investing to win each job, and that's going to allow you to evaluate whether your marketing is not just working, but working profitably. A lot of times we talk about cost per click and cost per lead and things like that. But in the end, the next step of that is how much was the total cost to actually book that job, not just the cost per lead, because now you got to factor in your closing rate and booking rate and things like that. So really think about that cost per acquired project. That's the final metric in figuring out your ROI. So I hope these metrics really give you some insight into things that you really need to be thinking about here. Um, the freebies I told you guys everyone that stayed here, I really appreciate. We got a lot of people that stuck around to the end here. I'm going to be sending you a couple freebies for staying on the workshop. One of them is going to be kind of this action plan. We're going to kind of detail that out for you. It's a multi-page document that really details an action plan for you. And then the other freebie is more kind of a guide, kind of a blog post on everything that we talked about today, and really how to think about that and apply it to your business to implement it. Because it's one thing to sit here and listen to me and you're thinking, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, I'm not doing that. That's one thing. But the other thing is actually have a guide in front of you to say, this is what I need to do. I need to check some of these boxes off to say I've done this. And some of these boxes I need to go around and check off every month, month after month for consistency. So, for all of you that stayed on, we've got a few dozen of you on here. So, I really appreciate you guys being here. You're going to be getting those freebies coming in your email inbox. So, look for those, look in the spam box just in case they don't hit, but those will be coming out here shortly. Let me know if you have any questions. If you want to follow up with me, you know how to reach out to me. You can call our office. It rings to my cell phone. You can also email me there, or you can go straight and book a call and just say, "Hey, Bob, this is kind of where I'm at. These are the problems I'm having. What do you think I should do?" What I do is I consult with folks. I'm not here to sell. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you learn, teach you the way to do it. If you get stuck on things, I'm here to help guide you. And if ultimately you get tired of wearing every hat in your business, then I'm also here for you to hand that off and let our expert team take over for you. So don't hesitate to reach out. That's what I'm here for. That's why I do these workshops every month. I'm really passionate about this industry. I want to see it grow. I want to see everyone out there grow in their own company. So reach out if you want to. Otherwise, I want to thank everyone for sticking around, for being here, and then staying to the end. You'll get those freebies. I really appreciate your guys' support, your presence here. It shows me that you are some of the few out there that are truly, truly interested in growing your company, and you're willing to put in the work to learn, to educate yourself, to come on webinars like this so that you can better yourself. So I really appreciate you being here. Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed rest of your day, and I'll look forward to seeing you on our next workshop. Take care, everyone.